Hello, my name is Amanda, and welcome to Back to the Heart, a podcast for self discovery, healing, and embracing true freedom. And I invite you to join me as we embark on a transformative journey back to your heart, where we get to choose love over fear. If you have been struggling with self-improvement despite your best efforts, this episode reveals why your words matter more than you think and how changing them might be the breakthrough that you have been searching for. Welcome back to the heart, where we are going to be jumping straight into one of my favorite topics with my friend here, Malin. We were just talking about what's going on in life and some of the words that we use just in our common chatter. And the first thing that came up was I said that I had been busy, but a good busy. Nicholas, what was your response?
I said, life has been full.
And steady.
Steady. That's what I said. Life has been steady. And you said you liked that. It was better than busy. And then I reflected that busy is a mindset. It's synonymous with overwhelm. And busy is a status symbol.
Yes.
And we all know those people, you friends, people around us, colleagues at work, family. When you ask them how they are, they're always busy. Always busy. And they're stressed. Busy equals stress. Because we're all busy. We're all full. Like, life doesn't stop, especially.
Right. And we almost get uncomfortable when it's not in our normal, quote unquote, busy state. I think that's what impacted people so much a few years ago with the lockdown. It was like, oh shit, what do I do with myself now? People are scared to be alone and do nothing. The idea of boredom, people don't even know what that is. And you have to sit still in a sense of what someone might say as boredom and not in the doing of anything, to really be and to listen to yourself.
I remember being bored as a kid. I remember before devices, before mobile phones.
Right.
I remember being bored. I'm never bored these days. There's always something to do. And if there's nothing to do, there's my social media apps.
Right. You stand in line waiting for a coffee, or you're sitting at a red light and you look around at the airport, or you're waiting in the line at security and everybody's looking down at their phone. Like there's no eye contact and, hey, how's it going?
Human connection, eye contact. There's something really juicy in this topic around being okay with discomfort. And that to me speaks to what meditation is. No one has got a quiet mind. No one enjoys sitting still quietly for 10 minutes every morning. No one's got time for that. But you could make time for that. And it's going to be uncomfortable. And the whole purpose of meditation, I talk a lot about meditation. I'm a fan of meditation. I meditate a lot. Sitting in discomfort. It's sitting with myself, with all the noise in my head, with all the discomforts, the micro tensions in my body, and being basically, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm uncomfortable. There's noise in my head. Fine.
And I think for me in the past, it was, and oftentimes, and maybe others too, is that when you are in a space where you're with intention to be quiet and not have the thoughts are racing. And that's what people are afraid of, is they don't want to hear that voice. And that's because oftentimes, at least like myself, the words that are there are worst case scenario, are negative talk, so a lot of soft talk chatter, a lot of things going on in my mind. From your experience as a transformational wordsmith, as we discussed before, how do you think that really works with people? If you can go and sit into a meditation and actually be intentional about the things that you are going to think about, or the words that are coming up in your mind, how important is that from changing what that crazy chatter is that's really negative and disruptive to encouraging and empowering?
That's a great question. And I think the word that jumps out to me is curiosity. How often do we how often can we be curious about the stories in our head, the words that we use, the way we talk to ourselves, the different voices, the different parts? Usually, most of the time, most people, certainly I can look back on a good few decades of living and see that I would believe everything that passed through my head. But in the last few years, I've developed this sense of curiosity. What's going on in there? Whose voice is that? How does that voice, how does that sentence make me feel when I'm not good enough? I'm never going to achieve that. Why even try, Nick? Why? You might as well quit. What's that doing to me? And that piece, that curiosity piece, I think is at the foundation of shadow work, inner work, personal development. It creates a little bit of space between the noise in my head and the real me, whatever that might be, the truth. It just creates that little bit of space. They're listening with curiosity. I teach my clients, I work one-to-one with people, and it's mostly the Enlifted method that I use. But I teach people how to meditate. And most people say, I can't meditate. My mind's too busy. I'm like, okay, sit for 5 minutes and be curious. And people are like, what do you mean? Sit and be curious and notice with curiosity is relaxed. It's very calm in the body. There's no tension. Everything else is tense. Everything else, every other way of dealing with the mind, especially the inner critic, the limiting beliefs, there's tension in the body. So it's a physical relaxation when we're curious.
Yeah. And it's almost like if I hear someone say that I can't do it, then that's an even more reason why they need to do it.
Yes. Yeah,
It's
the thing
it's
that
it's
scares
in a
us the most.
space, yeah, and it's not a can't either, it's not an inability to, it's a maybe not knowing how to, and that's where I've encouraged people that I say, I like that, the curiosity, and the other thing is adding the breath work into it. It's if you can't stop those thoughts, number 1, that's okay. If I focus on a rhythmic breathing pattern and I can focus on the breathing, sometimes that will stop the thoughts because I'm so focused on the breathing. So that's one option. And I like your idea too with the curiosity and also just not resisting it. That's really what that curiosity means to me is not resisting it because when you get into that space, you're like, okay, let me stop my thoughts. And you're thinking about, I need to go to the grocery store and things I need to get, and I forgot to go back, whatever's popping into your head, right? Of just to be okay with it. Because when you start getting angry at just stop thinking, just stop, then you're actually counterproductive in what the entire intention is. So that curiosity and of just observing where your mind does get distracted to, and then to come back into your breath once you recognize it and it's okay. Then once you get into that practice, the more you do it, the more comfortable people get with that meditation. At least that's been my experience.
That's really well said, articulated. I love the piece around resistance. When we're no longer in resistance to our own thoughts, then change will happen automatically. When we let thoughts rise and we let thoughts pass without any tension, without any grasping, without any attachment to them, then change will happen because they're just part, like clouds in the sky. They come and they go. And what we tend to do habitually, through no fault of our own, we weren't taught this in school. There was no mindset, breath mechanics classes in school. That's not what school was for. But when we learn to simply see the contents of the mind from a place of ease and flow, they pass, they come and they go, there's resistance to them. And then we get to choose. I like that one. That's a nice thought. I'll believe that. I don't like that one. I'll let that one go. It's almost as if the thoughts themselves have nothing to do with us. They're not even part of us. You could say that all the noise in our head comes from all the different influences, all the different stories we've heard from our very early years. There's my parents' voice in, there's my brothers and my sisters, my friends at school, teachers, TV, culture, politics, science, religion. It's all in there and it all sounds like me. It's all been internalized with my voice, but none of it is me. None of it is mine. None of it is mine. You've had Mark England on this show, and he says the mindset is the story that we tell ourselves.
It's so
We are
true.
the ability to tell ourselves a story. I love
And
that.
that's why you could have two people in the exact same experience that have a completely different perception of what just happened or what is currently happening, because we can only see what we see based on what we know. And all of that is shaped on what we've been told and what we've experienced ourselves in our own lives. I love that. It's so true.
Okay, so there are these two guys sitting in a bar in the remote Alaskan wilderness. One of them is a religious guy and the other is an atheist. And the two are having a deep discussion about the existence of God with that special kind of intensity that comes after about the fourth beer. The atheist says, look, it's not like I don't have actual good reasons for not believing in God. Not like I've never experimented with the whole prayer and God thing. And then he says, just last month, I got called away from camp in that terrible blizzard. I was completely lost. I couldn't see a thing. It was 50 below freezing. So I tried it. I got down on my knees in the snow and I said, God, if there is a God, please help me. I'm going to die out here if you don't help me. And back in the bar, the religious guy's looking at the atheist all puzzled. He says, wait, you're here. You must believe in God, right? And the atheist just rolls his eyes. And he says, no, man, that was just a couple of Eskimos who happened to come wandering by and showed me the way back to camp. And I love that because that's the same event, one through, oh, that's chance, coincident, nothing to see here. But on the other perspective is that's proof that there's God. I love that.
For sure. Yeah, it's all in how we perceive things. And that's why part of my healing journey has really been making that decision, making that choice to see love or fear. And in the world that we live in, unfortunately, because of all of those things, like you just said, whether it's from our childhood or society or our own experiences, religion, politics, the news, anything, it's fear, fear all of the time. And so much so that we still live as humans in this fight or flight fear type frequency. And on the ladder of energy frequencies, that's like the lowest. That fear, I think it's like shame and guilt are on there, but that fear, you can't be enlightened and in a state of love and peace and bliss if you're scared.
Yeah. I love this simplicity of the choice between fear and love, as you
Yeah,
said, and really draws its essence. And we can make that choice in any moment, any decision, any situation. Might not be easy to choose love, but it's always a choice.
for sure. To kind of jump back to the words thing that we were talking about before, I also realized that whenever we have these conversations with people and people say, how's it going? Or how are you? Or whatever, it is always about the things that we're doing, not necessarily how you're feeling. I think that's like such a huge part of our lives that makes us so uncomfortable in that stillness is because we're always in this state of do. And it's so complicated. We're all humans are built with this masculine and feminine, and the masculine of the doing and the feminine of the being. Even society has pushed women into this masculinity of the do, and men have gotten away from their femininity and the emotions and the being. And it's like, even just in our normal conversation, it's, hey, how are you? Instead of it being, I'm busy or steady. Why is it not? Everything's really going great, but I woke up feeling kind of shitty this morning. And just the real emotions, and I'm not really sure what's coming up. Some limiting beliefs and fears or whatever it is, those hesitations, those actual emotions. People aren't used to saying those things and even comfortable just having those conversations. It's all about what are you doing? Not how are you feeling?
What a world it would be if we had that level of honesty and vulnerability and courage in our conversations.
Right?
The simple expression, sometimes I know from my own journey, sometimes simply saying, you know what, I'm not okay today, like all sorts of crap. Sometimes that simple expression is enough to be heard and to be witnessed. Oh, wow, that's like incredible to have that opportunity. What a world it would be if we had that level of honesty, of balance, as you say, the masculine and the feminine. Maybe we could
Yeah.
do something about that.
Well, I think that's the key in the connection of humans is for us to realize that it's safe to be ourselves. It's safe for us to discuss those things and be open to receive it in a way that, like you said, something just as simple as being able to express it, right? And the other person to receive it, not to say, oh my God, I'm so sorry, that sucks, or "You fix it, or let me change it, or whatever, because sometimes it's not about that. It's just, I'm just not I'm not okay. I'm not great today. And I know that it's gonna change, or I know that I have the choice, right? To shift this, but right now it's not that good. But
This is really interesting because this comes up. I see this a fair bit in men's work. I'm part of some groups and some online WhatsApp groups. And when men tend to share, when men tend to be open and vulnerable, mostly, not always, but most other men will come in with solutions. They'll
Mhm.
jump in. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? And as you rightly say, like sometimes you just need to be heard. So there's this great practice that I use with, especially with other men. If someone is sharing, if someone is being courageously open and honest and vulnerable, there's a good question to ask before my input, which is, what do you need to be heard? Do you need just the space to express? Or do you want some like solutions and some back and forth? And that's, but most men, that's, okay, that's interesting because that's not often asked in those spaces.
I can definitely see that men as typically being the fixers and here's a solution finder. And women do that too, being people pleasers and their maternal nature. It's let me care for you. And especially when a man maybe is vulnerable to share with a woman and then they're getting an answer. It's already would have come up with the answer if I knew there was an answer. So then people don't share because of the fear of someone trying to give them an answer or a resolution. And number one, they probably already know because we do, right? If we really go in and listen to our intuition, they know what the answer is or what the resolution, the fix, or the change, the pivot, whatever it is. But we oftentimes don't want to hear it or admit it, especially from someone else. Maybe admit that we are struggling with it. So it's such a give and take of finding the right space to, on both sides of that, maybe sometimes even to present something if you want to share and say, hey, I just need to get this off my chest. I'm not looking for a solution for anything. I just need to vent or whatever it is, because so many people don't know that is an actual response to give. So maybe that's us in our giving back is to start to give that option to somebody and then offer that to them as well if they do actually get to the space to share. But so many times people don't even get to that space to share.
It's a form of modeling a new language. It's like an emotional vocabulary. It's a form of emotional intelligence. And the
It
more that
really
we teach
is.
it and the more that we move, like, the more that we model that in society with our friends, our family, colleagues, then we're using different words. We're using a different language. And that is what will ultimately move us to a better world, a way of connecting, a better way of being with each other. We've got a long way to go. When you were sharing that, I had this idea that most of the time, people's problems are not the problems that they think. So we tend to have this surface level idea of our problems, such as some arguments that we might be having with a partner, something's going on at work, there's financial problems, there's all sorts of surface level problems. But it's probably not those problems that are the actual things that we need to solve. It's usually something much deeper in our nervous system, some root stress response that has gone unprocessed. There's often an element of going back into our past, looking at some of the stories that were really shocking or traumatic, like the roots of some of our stress triggers. So we have this, and I notice it myself. We're humans, we're storytellers. This is my problem, and it rarely is. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was just at an intensive retreat a few weeks ago about relationships, and it was talking about the little shit of leaving your shoes on the floor might be a big issue, or not putting the dishes in the dishwasher, or something, leaving the top off the toothpaste, something little like that that really drive these complications in relationships, be it a partner or sibling or coworker, any relationship. But it really comes down to, it's not about that little shit. Does it really matter if the shoes are left out on the floor? No, it really doesn't. But there's something underlying the bigger, deeper root, like you're saying, that is something based on our own experiences, likely from our childhood or any story that we've been telling, whether it be from previous relationships or something we experienced as a kid. Because even like having conversations with my brother, that we grew up in the same house, our interpretations of the things that we experience is completely different. So
That's crazy.
so yeah.
Things that we think, and it's not going to be about shoes. Is it? Lost the capacity in many ways to feel, to really listen to our bodies, because our bodies are always trying to tell us. Triggered state, that
Yeah.
stress response is the body screaming, there's something you need to look at here. And the mind, this is the way I interpret it. It's like our awareness goes into our mind to distract ourselves from the feeling, and the mind will busy itself with a surface level problem. Yeah, my partner keeps doing this, leaving the dishes in the sink, not washing up. This person's really arrogant at work. And the body is still there going, hey, that's not the problem. Listen to me. But we like to get into our heads and try and solve the problem in our heads. The stress lives in the body as well. That's a really interesting one with stress. We think we can talk our way out of it.
And oftentimes the talking actually is making it worse, because oftentimes people are saying, I am something, even if it's, I am busy or I am frustrated. It's, I am feeling frustrated. And there's a big difference between that. And I think that our body, like you said, reacts to those words that we're using and talking to ourselves. And I am sad or I am depressed, because that's so important to say, I am feeling sad or I am feeling frustrated or whatever is incredibly different than I am.
It's a completely different world, isn't it? There's nowhere to go. That's your identity. That's who you are. I am depressed. I have depression. I used to say that all the time.
Yes.
And there's nowhere to go. From my mind, it's okay. For my body, it's okay. Then we are. No, talk about spells and spelling. A
Oh,
powerful spell I was putting on myself. That I was cursing myself with those words. Unintentionally, unconsciously, perhaps. That's wild, isn't it? That's wild. I am feeling. In this moment, I am feeling some depression. Completely different. I am depressed. I have depression.
or overwhelmed or angry. Who wants to be angry? Nobody. It's
Some people
okay
do.
to feel anger. Anger, feeling anger can oftentimes leads to action and like huge pivots, right? Anger is a big change in our lives. So it's not a bad feeling, but you don't want to be. You don't want to live in a state of that's who you are.
No way. And some people do. Some people
Yeah.
inherently exist in that way because their language dictates to them what they're feeling and who they are, and their sense of identity. The body, the body feels your thoughts. The
It
body
does.
reflects every thought, Every thought that we have sends like a chemical soup to the body so the body can feel like you're thinking. And you do that for a decade or two, it becomes very hard to change because your body becomes so conditioned to a specific chemical cocktail. There are really powerful tools with things like breath work, certainly, but we need to practice a new story over and over again. We need to practice it in those moments of discomfort until the body starts to receive new chemicals, new feelings. That's a whole different way of interacting with mindset, healing, with therapy. That feels really cutting edge and pioneering, and using words
Yeah.
to change how we feel.
It's just thinking about the words that we're saying. It's so powerful. I am sick. Our mind, that reticular activating system, is going to look for confirmation of I am sick. I am old. Like, I had this conversation with my mom the other day, and she was talking about something that she couldn't do because she was old, and like her expectation of she's falling apart. And I'm like, Mom, you say that you can't do that because of your age, but look at all of these amazing things that you just told me that you did yesterday. I'm like, look at all this. Your age didn't stop you. I think so many times people have these big hiccups and these labels with themselves, whether that's age or race or gender or any of the things. And it's like putting that identifying marker on yourself that you may think other people think is bad, which is really you judging it, right? You're thinking that it's bad. It's like when you let that go and just, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to be in those states, right? And label yourself anything.
Yeah, there's real magic in choosing in those moments when we experience pain and hurt and heavy emotions and negativity, which happen, it's natural to have the ability or the awareness to choose a story in those moments of love rather than fear. So rather than, oh, I'm depressed again, this always happens to me. I certainly would have said things like that in the past. Now, when I feel some heaviness or I don't look after myself, I talk to myself like I'm someone worth looking after. I'm like, okay, this is how we're feeling. Isn't it great? We feel like shit today. Amazing. What a blessing to experience life and all its full emotions. And I can get lost in that mantra or affirmation or spell. I go on these internal rants. It was something I learned from Abraham Hicks, the self-care rampage. So, okay, right now I feel like shit. Great. I'm still alive. I'm breathing. I'm grateful. And even though I might not be feeling it, I'm choosing different thoughts when I'm feeling something. So there's new neurological connections happening. There's old neurological connections being pruned. I'm choosing a different story in the moments of discomfort. And that takes a lot of courage, I think. That takes practice. That takes a lot of awareness, but it works. It changes how we feel. It really works.
Yeah, it really does. Let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about relationships, like in dating, because I know that you work with men and you can dive into the word transformation specifically and how it affects their life.
Yeah, great topic. Thank you. First few things that jump out to me is some men that I work with, very keen to get into a relationship, very desire being attractive and being confident. And a lot of single men, or a lot of men in general, it comes down to this piece of confidence. They want to be more confident. And a lot of men, especially in the dating scene, there's lots of men's coaches that teach how to be confident, which would make sense. Okay, I want to be confident. There's a dating coach. I can learn how to be confident. You learn how to hold yourself. You learn things to say. You learn tools in dating. True, natural, authentic confidence is almost a byproduct of a down-regulated nervous system. When we're stressed, and most people are stressed most of the time, modern living is crazy. That's when the story mind goes into overdrive, the doubts, the fears, they're not good enough, that I'm not attractive enough. It's not a fun place to be when we're trying to operate in a low level or chronic state of stress. But when we down regulate, when we undo some of the stress responses, using breath work, using story work, using the Enlifted method, using meditation, when we're calm in our parasympathetic state, which is our rest and digest, confidence naturally emerges, because confidence is different for every person. Confidence is being your natural self. And if we're being honest, we're all a bit weird and wonderful. We're all a bit crazy. We're all a bit neurotic. And confidence is being totally at ease with that. And actually, I'd take that one step further. Confidence is not having an outcome. So me thinking, I need to be a certain way. I need to be a certain way to appear attractive. So I might be out on a date. I need to appear or be confident so this person likes me. True confidence is, this person seems really lovely, but I'm going to be myself. And if they don't like me, great. If they do like me, great. It really comes back to the inner work and the falling in love with yourself, which is such a crazy, wild thing to say. For most men, the idea of self-love is a big push. But to be on your own and know that you're spending time with your best friend, that's the goal. That's how you cultivate confidence. I'll tell you a little story, my first really powerful meditation experience. So this goes back to school. I was about 13. It was one of my first weeks in secondary school. I was a naive kid, didn't really know what I was doing. It was like the first week of school, and there was this girl that I liked. I fancied her, and I told some of the boys in my class. They started winding me up. They started picking on me. They said, you should go talk to her. You should go talk to her. And I was like, no, I'm not going to talk to her. And one of the boys told me, she likes you. She likes you. We told her and she likes you. She's expecting you to go and talk. And I was just a kid. I was nervous. I didn't do anything. So maybe the end of school, the next day, I got on the bus to get home. I'm walking on the bus. Back of the bus, she's sitting there. Her name was Nicola. I remember this like it happened yesterday. I'm 13 years old. I walk up to the end of the bus. I turn to face her and I say, hello, Nicola. She doesn't look at me. Her friend turns to me and she says, she doesn't want to speak to you. Really rudely. I freeze. The bus is full. I can't move. So I'm stood there for a 20-minute bus ride, standing there, frozen. That one experience made me terrified of girls. For
Yeah.
years. I was very shy. I was very quiet. Couldn't approach girls that I liked. Couldn't start a conversation. I was one of those boys that was frozen in the face of girls, pretty girls that I was attracted to. Fast forward about 17 years, and I come out of my first Vipassana meditation. So it's a 10-day silent meditation retreat. I'm in New Zealand. I'm 28 years old, 27, 28. I get out of this meditation retreat feeling all sorts of calm, amazing, hard work. And we're in Auckland in New Zealand, and we get a bus to the city. Let's go to a cafe, let's decompress, let's hang out, meet some new friends. Went to the cafe, went to the counter. I ordered a cup of tea and some cake, I think, and I had a chat with this girl behind the counter, and she was very attractive. We had a bit of a giggle, chatted for a couple of minutes. Then I sat down with my friends. I look at my cup of tea and I go, I wasn't anxious. I just had a conversation with a pretty girl and I was calm. I think I might even have flirted a little bit. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I get what meditation does. I get it. And it was in that moment, I thought, I'm going to meditate for the rest of my life. And I do, probably because of that. I realized I don't need to learn to be confident. I just need to breathe well. I need to breathe, learn
Yes.
slow, and the confidence will emerge.
Yeah. That's the whole thing with the podcast is like getting back to the heart. And when you get back to the heart and start building that trust and confidence in yourself, then it naturally radiates to anything around you, whether that's a pretty girl or your parents or in your job and your career. It's like getting back and building that trust in yourself. And that's exactly what you did. It's like when you're able to dive deep back into yourself and through the meditation and this healing work to realize that you're perfect just the way you are. And you're not supposed to be like anybody else, because if you were like anybody else, then you would be like a copy of them. You're still not the original. We're only the originals of ourselves. So why would we want to be a copy of anyone else?
Yeah, love that. I say this to men that want to date. When you see a couple that are very like publicly intimate and it catches the heart, there's a moment of tension. I want that. I don't have that. And then there's this physical tension in the body. And that loops back to what we were saying earlier. There's a resistance to that. What we're saying to our bodies, our minds are saying, I want that, or I'm attracted to that, or I'd like to move in that direction. But the body is tensing and bracing. The key or the practice is to notice that tension and be totally at ease with the fact that you want something, you desire something, you're seeing something. And it's beautiful when you see a couple in public being very affectionate. It's gorgeous. And for a lot of men, it's just tension. I want it. I want it. And it's beautiful. And it's that again, it's like choosing love in that moment. Show your body, show the universe, this is what you want by opening your heart to it, by seeing it and being fully in love in the moment, rather than the tension and the resistance of I want it and I don't have it. And why don't I have it? So I take a deep breath and be like, wow, that's beautiful. She's beautiful. He's beautiful. Wow, that's gorgeous. And being in love in that moment, without any agenda, without any goal, without any desire, maybe you want, but without any agenda, it's just, that's beautiful to see.
It's just a appreciation of something beautiful in nature too. It's that existence and reverence. It's interesting as you're telling that story, I felt a little bit tense and realized that I was locking up my breath because on the other side of that, I can tell that I've been afraid of being that person to show that in public because my husband is very loving and affectionate and he wants to do that. And sometimes I am resistant because the old me and still working on me feels like I'm responsible for other people's feelings around me. That was me before. If I saw that, I would think that's not fair that I don't have that, or I want it, or that must not be real, something not authentic about it because I hadn't experienced it before. And then now, like, whenever I'm experiencing that on the other side, now I feel a little uncomfortable because of what other people might think about it. And it's hard for me to just be in that enjoying of that moment and that love and affection and attention because of somebody else's potential disappointment that they don't have it.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? What a gift you can give people by feeling that tension or what will people think? And then deciding, no, I choose love. What a gift I can give this world to be in love in this moment.
Yeah. No, because that's the thing is I feel like for so many of us, on top of all the things that we've discussed, not being able to stop the thoughts, not being able to, not knowing that we're talking so negative to ourselves, all of the human experiences in our past and all those things combined, we don't have examples of people around us that are in relationships that are seemingly good relationships. At least I didn't have that. But if there's something that you want to say, do or experience or to be, whether that's professionally or someplace that you want to go, you can find and see somebody who has been skydiving and see what they did and how they did it, or somebody that became a professional, whatever it is, and see what they did and how they did it. Unfortunately, it's felt like for me that there haven't been a lot of examples of what seem to be good relationships. So it's almost like I'm doing a disservice to myself and to others to not experience that beauty of the relationship that I am in, to show them that it really can happen. This is real. Look, this is great. You really can have someone that is affectionate and wants to show that love in front of other people and is proud to be there and in that moment. So it's my opportunity to get to share that with other people. So maybe that's what I need to change that story and write that out and four-step that story.
It's a good 4-step story. There's something in our culture, maybe even more the British. The British are terrible for it. But we play small, we play down, we don't celebrate ourselves. I love the American spirit, a lot of my community in America, and there's a confidence, there's this spirited nature, and I love it. And the British, we're so reserved. We don't celebrate ourselves. We play small, we dumb ourselves down, we don't want to make a big impression. And that's so sad. The best thing we can do is show up bright and shiny in the world. Yes, it's going to confront people. And there's a great Buddhist teaching, talk about Christ, and that he was so open when he was on the cross. It was so confronting for people. It was so confronting because he was showing people that he was a reflection, a mirror for people's own closeness. And that is so confronting for people. They don't want to look at the blocks, the shadow. And underneath, we all have that love. But underneath it, that's who we are. We are love. Trumps everything in the universe. Love trumps all. And Jesus on the cross is the perfect metaphor. It's the perfect story. He only had love. He only had love. And that was so confronting for people that they went a bit nuts. I love that story because that happens all the time, every day. You see someone who's big and bold and happy. You see someone that's taking up space. And I have certainly in the past judged those kind of people, judged them, ego, arrogance. Look at that person. That's great. Like this person, look at they're enjoying their life. How beautiful is they're taking up space. Amazing.
We're talking about words. What a negative word to be associated with something that happens to people all day. I don't want to be on the other side of a trigger of anything, but whenever you're activated by something or someone, and even if it is that feeling of jealousy, what is it, right, that is holding me back from experiencing that feeling, right? And getting back to understanding why is that person or that thing triggering or activating something inside of us. It's really an opportunity. Because I was there and I didn't like to watch even romantic movies. And this woman doesn't want to watch romantic movies. I was like, because that's just not real. And that was because of my own experiences with growing up. And I've been married twice. And then I find my husband at my third marriage, and all the self-doubts and all the labels and all of the mind chatter of myself and other people thinking like, why would I even do this again? Clearly, I don't know what I'm doing. It was all this negative chatter. And then that was really the first time I went into my heart. And one of the first times in a relationship that I really listened to myself, and with that inner knowing and that feeling of, you know what? All the pieces on the outside may not make sense to anyone else, but I feel this on the inside. And it's been magical for my life and part of my healing journey to have an amazing partner that I can have conversations and mirror and do this shadow work together and understand that in moments that I activate him or he activates me, we're able to learn and heal together. So if I had not listened to myself in that moment, I would have been robbing myself from that opportunity because of what? This story that I had told myself about relationships, this story that's not possible, this story that, oh my gosh, you're 40 and 2 divorces behind you. But here I am and celebrating 2-year anniversary, and it's been amazing. Right?
Amazing. Amazing. Well done, you leading the way. So good to hear. Those stories that get in the way, the stories that we tell ourselves. What dating comes down to is the story, even from the get-go, especially online dating these days. As soon as you start texting someone on an, the story mind gets going, oh, this person's like this, they're using these words. Then you have a conversation with them and the story gets bigger and you build an identity for this person. We're usually so wrong with those stories. But what's the lesson here? The lesson here is to get on a call as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Get to know someone in real life as soon as possible. I think there's some real wisdom in that. I think there's some real sensible, logical, natural human connection.
And to be your real self, because quite honestly, if you were wearing a mask, let's just say like a literal mask, if you were wearing a literal mask and you fell in love with someone and they took that mask off and it was not at all like the mask that they were wearing, how frustrated and angry would you be? Like, let's just take the mask off and be ourselves. And if that person doesn't want to be with us without our mask on, then do you really want to be with that person that only wanted you with your mask on? So may as well just take the mask off, be your authentic self. And when you do that and are back to the heart and you are choosing love instead of fear, you start vibrating in a different energy. And that confidence that you continue to start gradually building within yourself, then you are attracting someone with that similar energy. And so when we can get back to ourselves and not have that expectation for someone else and just be our real selves, then the little shit falls away.
We're perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
I'll take that any day.
Yeah. I love it. This has been a super amazing conversation. And if you're listening to this, any of our conversation today has resonated with you, definitely share this with a friend. And I transfer this back to you, Nicholas, to share what you're doing with men, because I think it is incredibly powerful for people to have resources in their healing journey and anybody and everybody. But I feel like it's maybe more difficult for men sometimes. So to have a community of men is awesome. So share with us what you're doing.
Thank you. My work is very simple. I work one-to-one with people. I tend to work somewhere around 8 sessions in 8 weeks. We use the Enlifted method. It's about undoing the stress responses, down regulating. The confidence that we seek naturally starts to emerge. And it's a very effective method at getting people unstuck. It's breath work, it's shadow work, it's identifying the things in our past that created some level of shock. There's a level of courage and vulnerability involved. And it's not endless talking about childhood. It's not therapy. It's a wonderful, wonderful methodology that has changed my life in so many ways, from a shy, depressed kid, really, to a confident human being who's in love with life. And that's what this work does. It gets to the core operating system of the human system, which is our beliefs, our words, and our breath. So you'll find me on Instagram. You'll find me on LinkedIn. I post and write a lot on there. And yeah, get in touch if you're interested in connecting more.
Thanks for tuning in to this powerful conversation with Nicholas Malin. We dove deep into how the words we use daily can completely transform our reality or hold us back without even realizing it. Remember when I mentioned being busy and Nicholas suggested using steady instead? That is a simple shift that highlights how our language creates our experience. We explored how meditation isn't about having a quiet mind, because really no one has that. But it's about sitting with discomfort and developing curiosity about our thoughts rather than believing every story our mind tells us. Nicholas shared his journey from being a terrified young man around women to finding natural confidence through meditation and inner work. His approach helps men and anyone get unstuck by working with breath, story, and shadow work to change their core operating system. If this message resonated with you, follow Nicholas on Instagram for more and comment community below if you want to join my community where we can heal and grow together. What word will you change in your vocabulary today?